The year is 2009, and I've just woken up on a wild and unpredictably warm Melbourne Saturday morning. I emerge from my bedroom to go down the hall, through the kitchen, and finally plonk myself on the couch. I turn on my Xbox 360, crossing my fingers and hoping that the red rings don't get me today. Because I've just launched, arguably, one of the best fantasy RPGs from the last 20 years, and I reassure myself that today will be the day that I finally kill Umbra and take her beautiful soul-stealing sword and enchanting ebony armor to boot. The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion will be turning 17 years old in a few months, and since I was feeling nostalgic, I thought I would revisit this fantasy masterpiece and just talk about how awesome it was, how awesome it is, and how awesome it will continue to be. If there is one indisputable law of physics, it's that of action and reaction. This concept is observed in my behaviour in response to each of Skyrim's re-releases, which is to reinstall Oblivion and be transported back into a world of heroes, Daedric princes, and extremely stimulating NPC dialogue. Now, it's a simple task for me to talk about Oblivion's amazing qualities purely through the lens of nostalgia, and because I am a psychopath and I am unashamed and will emotionally manipulate you, perhaps into revisiting your own experiences with Oblivion, I will now do so. As I replay Oblivion today and zoom through each of the sections, largely without stress, this was not the case when I was 10 years old. Time moves slower when we're younger, and that's how it felt for me when my gorgeous default Imperial male took at least a couple of hours to navigate through the Imperial prison sewers after Boris rudely, I might add, abandoned us to the non-existent mercy of that first rat that emerges from that busted wall. Fighting zombies, goblins, and Mythic Dawn agents was terribly exciting, and when Emperor Uriel Septim told me that I alone will stand against the forces of the coming darkness, and that I must close shut the jaws of Oblivion, I truly felt like I was indeed the champion of Cyrodiil, ready to embark on a perilous quest to obtain a full suit of Daedric armor, because that shit was fire. I mean, you had to have it. The red and pointy bits were the drippiest drip that ever dripped. It was the closest thing to supreme fit in all of Tamriel. Not really caring too much about the skill menu, because I had no idea what conjuration meant at the time, I confidently proceeded through the final sewer grate, expecting to emerge into a generic field, but instead I was greeted with a beautiful view I'm sure you all remember seeing for the first time. Oblivion's graphics are simply gorgeous, and they don't just shine in terms of video resolution. Trees and grassland gently swaying in the breeze, crystal blue waters filled with the very appropriately named slaughterfish, and clear sunny skies, which were so bright at times I felt like I had to hold up my arm in real life to give myself some shade. The environment of Oblivion, as beautiful and diverse as it is, has one more component which is so spectacular and recognizable that even to this day, it consistently appears on my Spotify Wrapped at number 1, and that is its soundtrack. The calming melodies of Harvest Dawn and Auriel's Ascension are some of the most idyllic scores of music to be heard during traversal of the massive land and cityscapes. I can't forget to mention the dramatic, adrenaline-inducing powers of Death Knell and Bloody Blades, which I associate to this day with bandits swinging rusty iron battle axes at me. Oblivion fans are united not only in fond remembrance of its story, characters and soundtrack, but by some universal experiences and situations which players found themselves either in or witnessed occurring in the game. Galloping across a 90-degree mountainside with Prior Mabel's paint horse is one such example. Another is watching the goofy manner in which NPCs would initiate conversations with each other. There is a reason that Oblivion is the birthplace of the true and purest form of NPC behavior.
I saw the Zaxa, and I magged it too. Ah, fibble!
Your pardon, citizen. I must return to my post.
Gal bursting it.
If you aren't familiar with the Lefebvre bros, do yourself a favor and watch some of their videos, which accurately depict Oblivion NPC conversations. Although the conversations are goofy as hell, they don't lack for ingenuity, as the game purposefully steers NPC conversations onto topics which have recently occurred in your playthrough. For instance, in the beginning of the game, the assassination of Uriel Septim is on everyone's lips in the major cities, but it isn't long before you start overhearing that Hieronymus Lex is harassing people in the Elven Gardens district, whining about how the Grey Fox did him dirty yet again after you complete the relevant quest during your advancement in the Thieves Guild. Some of the best and memorable quests in Oblivion are given to you through each of the different guilds, such as the Fighters Guild, the Thieves Guild, and the Mages Guild. And also technically classified as guilds are the unforgettable Dark Brotherhood and Arena Fighter organizations. While on the subject of guilds, I must point out the crazy depth of narrative each of the guild's storylines had up for offer. It was great fun jumping between Anvil and Shadenhall, doing quick contracts and rapidly advancing up the Fighters Guild's ladder. Cast your mind back to the poor old lady who keeps her babies, her rats, for pets in her basement in Anvil, and the Nancy Drew-style investigation you conduct to expose her cheeky neighbour Quillweave of wrongdoing. The Thieves Guild was great fun for players who enjoyed sneaking and skulking about, making decent coin, while working your way up, taking on the mantle of the Grey Fox.
You're the Grey Fox. You're under arrest for all kinds of stuff. You're wanted dead or alive. I'm choosing dead.
The Mages Guild was a wonderful journey, which would give you the opportunity to interact with dozens of unique mages across all of Cyrodiil and learn the ways of each of the different magic classes. My personal favourite being Conjuration, ironically enough. The arena is definitely unforgettable, as although at times the fights get a little repetitive, it's all worth it if you can have the adoring fan worship the ground that you walk on as the new Grand Champion. By Azura, by Azura, by Azura, it's the Grand Champion standing here next to me. There are too many to list here, but I have to mention my favourite group, which I most enjoyed doing quests for, the secretive death cult, known as the Dark Brotherhood. Who else can remember where they were when one day they went to sleep in a bed unsuspecting in some dilapidated dungeon before suddenly being woken up by the dashing and subtle listener of the Brotherhood himself, Lucien Lachance. One feature which allowed players time to familiarise themselves with the game and all of its different mechanics before transforming ruins filled previously with scamps and mudcrabs into a civilly and storm atronach infested hellscape was the difficulty level scaling system. Although of course some enemies are harder to kill than others, the game generally balanced fighting by giving you access to better and, more importantly, sexier weapons as you continue to level up. This is what made the Guild Ladder advancement system so great to play through, as the linear style of progression gave you the opportunity to develop your skills in combat, magic, and stealth at a similar rate, so as to keep up with the ever-increasing unique enemy pool, which is quite staggeringly large. Maybe this is something only a few people did, but I suspect there are some of you watching who grinded to level 20 and then walked into the Roxy Inn just north of the Imperial City so that you could slay the wearers of the suits of Glass, Ebony, and Daedric armors. If you were lucky enough to play Oblivion on the PC way back when, then you will be familiar with some not-so-standard features which could be abused to maximize your fun until a point where you did it too often and it completely ruined your fun. I am of course talking about console commands, specifically COC Testing Hall, which is exactly what it sounds like, a room that contains within it each and every asset and item in Oblivion. Another fun and at times necessary feature, which Uncle Todd Howard left in the game unintentionally or otherwise, was the scroll duplication glitch. The glitch worked by double selecting a stack of scrolls in your inventory, after which you would select and subsequently drop the item you wish to duplicate. The result was either a beautiful pile of jewellery if you wanted a quick fortune, or a game-breaking mountain of watermelons which was just funny to watch when they drowned a poor shopkeeper in his own store. The duplication glitch was never patched, and it's perfectly functional on both Xbox and PC to this very day. The main questline of Oblivion was about as complex as you might expect for a game released in 2006. Really a series of well-dressed fetch quests, which took you from city to city, from dungeon to dungeon, from alien ruin to alien ruin, and from cave to cave. Can't forget the caves. However, although the formula remained similar, the narrative did not. The hunt to reclaim the Amulet of Kings from the infamous leader of the Mythic Dawn cult, Manka Cameron, was exactly what I wanted from this game. It was fun, colourful, beautiful, and challenging in all the right ways. Something Oblivion only improved on from the previous Elder Scrolls game, Morrowind, which I did not play growing up, I have to admit, but was the supreme quality of the DLC, which was released a couple of years after its release in 2005. The Elder Scrolls Oblivion cannot be adequately praised without mentioning the Shivering Isles and Knights of the Nine DLC packs. The gorgeous environments which I became familiar with in the vanilla game were turned up to 11 in the Shivering Isles, as I'm certain you remember the wild binary divide between the areas of mania and dementia. The Shivering Isles is Oblivion on magic mushrooms, literally. There are so many massive magic mushrooms in the Shivering Isles, and this insane nature is personified by the main protagonist, and perhaps the most notable Elder Scrolls character in the entire series to date. You know him, you love him, he is Lord Sheogorath, the Daedric Prince of Madness.
A new arrival! Shame about my gatekeeper. I'm so happy I could just tear out your intestines and strangle you with them!
If you thought you were drippy, strutting around in your Daedric armor, you better check yourself at the door, because Sheogorath wore that royal purple-pink tunic in such a fashion that it figuratively puts the entire modern fashion industry to shame. A feature of Oblivion which cannot be overstated in its simple brilliance is the ease of modding in the game. Owing to its fine age, Oblivion required a mere clicking and dragging of a mod data folder into its location of installation, and away you go. This is very simple now. But again, when you're younger, the first 100 attempts always seem to end in the same way. Nothing more than a big yellow exclamation mark and the taste of disappointment in your mouth. The Nexus Mods website, known for its massive library of mods, took extra special care of Oblivion modders who used its platform with perpetual impunity, fixing textures and meshes, making the game prettier, creating new and unique armors and weapon assets, which were almost always overpowered as hell and cost a fortune. And of course, I cannot forget to mention the eye candy mod, you cheeky buggers. The Oblivion modding community continues to be, to this day, a positive force for the game, always looking to improve and evolve the game that gave us so much joy, whether we played it for the first time in 2006 or yesterday. The penultimate quintessence of modding in Oblivion lies in the hands of a small group of people who have been working for free to port over the Oblivion assets into the Skyrim game engine in an effort to reignite the fiery passion which fans of old burn with and hope to instill in gamers today. If you haven't already, you should most definitely check out the Elder Scrolls Skyblivion project, as I'm certain we all want to have a go at slaughtering the inbreds of Hackdirt in a 4K Ultra HD Skyrim engine. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion will always be a source of nostalgia for me, and perhaps for you as well, and I hope that the positive attitude of the awesome Oblivion community remains strong and united in its shared memories and future hopes of this fantastical masterpiece of a video game. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and remember that if you have to travel, stay on the roads. It's the Daedra you see.